Well, my views about cancel culture are pretty clear. First, I think it's dangerous to society in its own way in terms of its attack on free speech. Secondly, I like to take those ultra-woke lunatics who cause cancel culture head on. Well, last week, one of America's top sports broadcasters, Stephen A. Smith, faced a social media furore after he dared to give an opinion on pop superstar Rihanna, who's doing this year's halftime NFL Super Bowl show next month. Let's take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, she's a lot of things. She's spectacular, actually.
Yes.
And congratulations on new mamahood.
Yes. I sense
There's
butts.
one thing she's not.
Uh-huh.
She ain't Beyonce.
Now, Stephen A. Smith, he's a very opinionated guy, and he's perfectly entitled to his opinions. And his personal opinion is that Beyonce is there, and Rihanna is great, but not quite as good as Beyonce, which is an honestly held opinion, and many people would agree with him. But there was a most extraordinary social media pile-on, so much so that he was forced to issue an apology.
Rihanna, go do your thing. I apologize for creating whatever brouhaha comes of this. I gotta be more careful where people twist it and turn it into something it ain't. My bad on that.
Well, Stephen's new book is called Straight Shooter, does exactly what it says on the tin, and he joins me live. Stephen, it's great to have you on the programme. First of all, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Good to talk to you, man. How you doing?
Well, great.
My pleasure. How you doing?
I'm a little bit disappointed in you because I love you, and I don't think you should have bowed to the mob and apologised. You should have dug in, stuck to your guns, and said, you know what, I prefer Beyonce. No disrespect to Rihanna, I just prefer Beyonce.
Well, first of all, if you listen to what I had to say, I didn't apologize to any mob. I apologized to Rihanna. And what I apologized for was making a mess of this whole deal, not realizing that people were going to react this way, all of a sudden recognizing it as a crime to express my opinion. You know, my thing is she's home. She's a new mom. She's doing very well for herself. Obviously, she's a sensational artist. And my point to her was that I wasn't saying that you're not great. Just like I bought Beyonce's album, I bought yours. I am a fan.
Right.
It's just that I am of the opinion that Beyonce may be the greatest I've ever seen. I certainly didn't apologize for expressing that opinion. Who I was apologizing to was Rihanna personally, and what I was apologizing for was how people were able to twist it and try to interpret it as me denigrating her in any way, which I was not doing.
You see, I got into a little furore of my own last week with another pop star, Madonna, who I think has become a train wreck of epic proportions. And I said it quite vehemently.
Hello?
And all hell broke loose. Can you hear me?
I don't hear you.
Oh, I think we're having a few technical issues tonight, so we're going to fix that IFB. Just a little earpiece which goes into Stephen's ear. We'll put it back in. We've got him back.
I'm back.
Stephen, I think your IFB popped out. No problem, you're back. I had a little issue with Madonna.
Right here.
I said on air last week, Madonna, I thought, when she announced her tour, I thought she'd become the biggest train wreck in world entertainment. All hell... Here's a little clip of what I said. Here we are. See, I don't even care. I don't need to like singers to enjoy them at all. In fact, quite the opposite. I don't need to like any artist to enjoy them. But in her case, I find her behaviour for a woman in her 60s just utterly embarrassing. I mean, if that was my mother or grandmother or something, you'd be like cringing. Now, that was my honestly held opinion, Stephen, about Madonna. Now, people can disagree, you might disagree, but certainly I had a huge blowback from people, Madonna fans and so on, calling me all sorts of stuff, wanting me cancelled, wanting me shamed for being a misogynist, sexist, and so on. It was none of those things. I just think she does things deliberately to provoke, and I find them pretty revolting, actually. Now, here's the point. Here's my point. It would never have crossed my mind to apologise. And I just thought that knowing you, and I'm such a fan of yours, I was surprised you felt you needed to.
I felt I needed to because I think that if you're Rihanna sitting home minding your business, you interpreted it maybe without seeing it yourself as people expressing sentiments that I was disrespectful to her, which I did not do. And my point is a lot of times you have people that are subjected to the headlines without really knowing the details of the content that's been disseminated. So I wanted to make sure that she understand exactly where I was coming from, that I was a fan of hers. I'm just a bigger fan of Beyonce, and I'm not apologizing for that to anybody. Having said all of that, your point about Madonna, here's where I would compare the two. You were talking about Madonna as a person and how she conducts herself, and you are entitled to your opinion, and people are entitled to disagree and even be offended by that. My point is, what did I say about Rihanna that was offensive?
Nothing.
I said she's great and sensational and that she's done great. I said nothing offensive about her. And so for people to interpret that, if she didn't see it herself, she might have just went with these fools out there with this woke culture that goes to the extreme. And I wanted to make sure that I addressed it directly and apologized to her for creating this stir. But in the same breath, please understand, I am not someone who is fearful of the right or the left to the extreme. Woke culture doesn't fear me. They can all kiss off. I'm not here to make friends and subject what I feel or suppress what I feel because I'm fearful about how somebody is going to react. It's just that I wanted Rihanna to make sure she knew. I wanted to make sure she knew in no way that I intend any disrespect towards her. Everybody else could kick rocks. I'm not worried about what they think.
Well, I'm very glad to hear it, because that's more like the Stephen Smith that I know. But let me ask you this. What does it say about wider society that you can go on a show, as you did, to promote your excellent book and just make a genuine, honest observation that you think Beyonce is the biggest star of her kind in the world and that Rihanna may not be quite at that level, but is still great? And that creates a gigantic firestorm driven by social media. What does it say about where we've gone to as a society?
It says several things. A, people don't have a lot of things going on in their life. They have nothing better to do. Or number two, they're entirely too petty. Or number three, they're feigning passion and vitriol and what have you because it's clickbait material and everybody's looking to find a way to monetize whatever they're doing as opposed to going out there and really putting in the work and making something of themselves. That's not to say that everybody that feels that way are that way because I'm certainly not trying to imply that. But I would like to believe that most people in this world have better things to do with their time than creating a controversy out of something this minuscule and innocuous. Comedians, that's different. I mean, you're making jokes, you react to it, you're making people laugh and stuff like that. But I'm talking about the natural, organic, authentic uproar over something that there was nothing to have an uproar about. But that's the society that we're living in because those are people on the fringes, whether it's the extreme right or the extreme left. They make up about 8% of the population, no matter which side you lean to. And unfortunately, the ones who screech the loudest are the ones who get the most attention as opposed to the vast majority of us who have some damn sense. That's really what the situation is, and that's what you have to deal with in today's
What is the answer?
society. It's unfortunate, it's sad at that time, but you can deal with it.
Stephen, what is the answer to this cancel culture, which has enveloped society, not just in the States, but over here in the UK, around the world, actually? What is, Elon Musk has called it the woke virus, where people feel this immediate inclination, if they hear an opinion they don't like or don't agree with, to want to shame and vilify that person, get them hounded out of their job, ruin their lives if they can. They take great glee in that. What do we do about it? How do we stop it happening?
You have to shame the petty into the petty holes they belong in. And those of us who have some sense, have some decorum, and are relatively reasonable, we need to make sure that our voices are just as loud, if not louder than theirs. If somebody is loud and obnoxious and you never hear anybody else, sure, they're going to come across as profound in some people's eyes because they're getting that shine, that level of attention. But when you give attention to those who are worthy of it, who make more sense, who exercise more common sense and decency and decorum, etc., then obviously those people will weed itself out. Stop allowing these people to monetize such certain situations, make money off of the pettiness and the vitriol, make sure that they got to go out there and earn their money the old-fashioned way, and then you'll see people preoccupying themselves with other things instead of this kind of nonsense that I was subjected to last week.